55 says that we will create not one date, but two different dates for elections, depending on what gets referred by the people of the state for a vote. We would have a vote on House Bill 2391 should parts or all of that be referred on January 23rd. And if anybody wants to refer payroll taxes on transportation, that would happen in May. Mr. Speaker, right now, currently, there are 4 regularly scheduled elections of this state. They are in March, May, September, and November. 4 regularly scheduled elections. To have a special election in January would cost the people of this state $3.32 million. Now, we've heard on this floor today that there's a crisis if voters send this out to the people because we need to know what to do, except we're still in session, colleagues. We still have 5 more days. We actually have the ability, if we called ourselves into special session, to spend a mere, according to the last time it was counted in 2013, $13,000 a day for us to be here rather than to embroil 36 county commissioners and all of their staffs during the holiday season to have an election. We actually have choices. The presiding officers of this body can call us into a session, as can the governor of this state, if we're serious about finding a bipartisan solution to solving Medicaid. And since we've talked about Medicaid for a moment, I'd just like to say, I was here when we created the CCOs, House Bill 3650 in 2011, and I voted for that because I grew up on Medicaid. I was one of the people who once a month, a piece of paper showed up in the mail and said, you can go to the doctor. My freshman year, I passed a bill to expand Medicaid coverage to our prison population, people in the jail system coming out. And we then turned around and expanded that to the prison population a few years later. I've taken lots of votes that support Medicaid. I voted to study the Cover All Kids, although I'm going to vote against it because it's an expansion at a time when we don't have money, and yet somehow taxing other people's health care must make health care more affordable, and I'm not quite sure I understand that. Section 53 of the bill says that the legislature can circumvent the regular process for actually writing ballot titles. Currently, the citizens of this state are only afforded 15 words for a title, 25 words for a yes or no statement, and 125 words for a summary. But somehow we're special in that we get to write a book report. Whether or not it fits on the ballot, when the county clerks actually print it, we could write as many words as they want. So how do we make sure that voters actually understand what they're voting on? Which gets me to Section 56. It says that 10th day prior to the election is when voters' pamphlet statements can go, or voters' pamphlets would go out to the people. 10 days prior to the election. Except ballots will already be out because we didn't actually do anything to change the date of when ballots are out. So theoretically, under this bill and amendment, the way it's been engrossed, you would have a situation where somebody gets a ballot and their voter's pamphlet comes 10, 12 days later. How is that making sure voters get to make an informed vote? Under Section 56, this says that the Secretary of State doesn't have to use a competitive bid process. They can just go pick their uncle and say, hey, we're gonna kick $500,000 your way to print voters' pamphlet because we're not gonna go out for a public process. That doesn't invoke trust in government, Mr. Speaker. Under Section 58, it says that the ballot title period.
Representative Reschke yields.
Thank you, Representative. Under Section 58, it says that once the legislature crafts a ballot title, and understand they can start crafting a ballot title as soon as we're out of session, and now that we've qualified to go out and gather signatures, they can start that process. And once that process happens, there's only 5 days to respond. 5 days. So let me explain what the current process is, because I've put forward a petition before. The current process is that you go get your 1,000 signatures for a petition, and then what happens on the ballot titling process is that the Attorney General gets to write it, and then it's posted as a draft, and there's days to comment, 14 days to comment. And then if proponents or opponents don't like it, they make commentary, and then it goes back up to the Attorney General, and then it comes back down again, and if you still don't like it, you get to go to the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court says, it's got some problems, then it goes back to the AG. And then if the AG still doesn't get it right, it goes back up to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court has the ultimate authority to write and draft the ballot title and that whole process of yes or no and summary statements.